No.
Oh,
okay, it just said you're live
That's
online. Okay. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to the Isn't It Romantic Book Club discussion with Lori Foster today, discussing her book, No Holding Back. That was a good book. Let me just say it was.
Oh my God, it was fantastic.
Really good.
Yeah.
I want to welcome all the groups that we're beaming into and all the people out there watching. We're in Jennie's Page Turners. We're in Team Source Books today. We're in My Dangerously Dark Darling. Shout out to all the darlings. We're in our Isn't It Romantic Book Club. We're in Midnight in the Gardens. And we're also on YouTube, streaming live on YouTube. So welcome everyone who's tuning in. I'm Abbie Roads. I write dangerously dark romance. I tell people think an episode of Criminal Minds meets a love story with a paranormal twist. Here's a little stack of my books. So, and here's the newest one, Capturing Fate. Why is it so hard to hold this in front of the camera? There we go.
I don't know.
It's beautiful though.
So, thank you. And I'm working on Minds of Madness right now.
Ooh, I love that
to
title.
Publish that in maybe July or August.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Nice.
Who's next?
I'll go next. My name is Sharon Wray. I write the Deadly Force romantic suspense series about a group of ex-Green Berets reseeking their honor, trying to figure out what happened to them. And it's think Dan Brown type plots with lots of sex and romance. The next book in the series comes out, I think, late summer. It's Love's Last Kiss. And I'm currently writing a Gothic women's fiction for submission. So I know, like,
Sounds so
it's a
cool.
very modern day Rebecca type story. So I'm very excited.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So nice. Jennie?
Well, hi everybody. I'm Jennie Marts, and I write love, laughter, and happily ever afters. I write a lot of small town romance with hunky heroes and a lot of animal antics. I have a lot of dogs and horses in my book, so I write a lot of cowboys. I write cozy mysteries. I'll hold up my stack of hot cowboys. But I'm excited because this week I have something super exciting to announce, and I just had my newest release of my Hallmark Publishing book.
Yeah,
I'm so excited to read it.
Congratulations.
I'm holding up both because it's available in trade paperback and mass market paperback.
That's
It is.
cool.
Wow.
So the little one is available like at Walmart, Target, and the big one is available at like Barnes & Noble, and they're the exact same book though, but there's just a mini me. Anyway, hot bearded blacksmith and marketing exec and matchmaking grandmas, and this really mopey basset hound named Savage.
Oh, because there has to be a dog in it.
There
Or
has
pet.
to be. Yeah.
Sounds like a great dog,
I'm
too.
super excited about this.
All right, well, congratulations.
I know, I'm so happy for
excited
Jennie.
for you. My name is Diana Muñoz Stewart. I write romantic suspense for the strong of heart, meaning there's lots of action. My Black Ops Confidential series is out now. And my new series, a Bad Legacy series, the next one's coming out in April. And that's called Broken Promises. I'm really excited to share that with you guys. But more exciting is who we're here to chat with, Lori Foster. I'm so excited. I love this book. So Lori Foster is a New York Times, USA Today, and Publishers Weekly best-selling author. She has received the Romantic Times Career Achievement Award for serious romantic fantasy and for contemporary romance. Amazon's top-selling romance title for Too Much Temptation, Amazon's top 10 editors pick in romance for Causing Havoc, Walden Books' second best-selling original contemporary romance for Say No to Joe, BGI Group's best-selling original contemporary romance for The Secret Life of Brian, oh my gosh, best-selling romantic comedy for Jude's Law, and best-selling romantic suspense for Back in Black, plus Amazon's #1 editor's pick in romance for Servant the Acceptance. That's really cool.
Wow.
Lori has been featured, I love this, as a clue in the New York Times crossword puzzle and the USA Today's Quick Cross puzzle. How cool is that?
Wow.
To give back to the community, Lori does an annual benefit book where all advance and royalties go to a charity. This year's book is Colt, and I'm dropping the link into the chat if you'd like it. And so all the benefits of this book that I've just dropped the link in there go to charity. She also hosts the annual reader and author get-together, facilitating major interaction between readers, authors, and industry professionals, while also donating all proceeds from raffles to local charities. And this event will be held this year, June 19th, 2021. So they're holding the event. It's slightly scaled down, but it's going to be a great event. And here is Lori. Hello.
Hi, Lori.
Hi.
We're so excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here, so thank you so much.
Well, I think it's interesting that you're still holding your event. That's awesome.
Well, because we're scaling it down, we're not quite calling it an RAGT, reader author get together. We're just going to call it a one-day event, because generally the big event runs over several days. So it's a bridge for everybody that's missing. We're calling it the COVID boredom breaker with book buddies.
Oh man, we
That's a mouthful, right?
So this was so much fun. I absolutely loved No Holding Back. And I don't know if you know, but my series that I was just talking about is a vigilante series.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I was all about it. And I thought, it takes kind of courage to write about this subject matter. So were you a little nervous, getting into the idea of somebody, basically taking into their own hands to sort of even the score for people who don't have the ability to fight back themselves?
Not nervous at all. My only concern was that someone might think it was a reflection on a lack of faith in police officers, which it is not.
Yeah.
It's just that when you have to abide by the laws don't always work for the innocent. Sometimes they work for the guilty. So I wanted people who could step in and bridge that issue to make sure that justice is done by whatever means necessary. So.
And how many books are going to be in this series?
There will be 3. So the second book is out. Let me look at my cheat sheet real quick. It's out the 24th. I have so many books, you guys. It's hard to keep track. Stronger Than You Know is out the 24th, and that will be Reyes.
Okay.
Oh, I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that
book. I know.
And then the third book will actually be out December 28th, and they just have a working title on it right now. But that'll be The Sister Story, Madison.
Okay, so could I request a novella of Bernard's story?
Seriously, right?
I know.
Fun.
And the kittens.
Yes.
I had so many people write me and ask me if Parrish and Bernard were gay. And I said, no, that would have been a good storyline, but they're not. They're just really, really close friends, almost like brothers. And you kind of find out in No Holding Back that Bernard's something of a hound dog, but nobody knows that yet because he's so formal about everything. So he would make
it brilliant what you did with him, though.
Yeah.
That was with the kittens, and was just
the kittens.
Brilliant with him. Yeah.
Lori, you mentioned in the forward, or maybe it was the acknowledgement, about all the research you did on Army Rangers. But how much research did you have to do overall for this book? How long did that take you?
Well, I had done a different series with the human trafficking element in it. So the thing is, that was a few years ago, and things have changed drastically as far as where the main issues are. And there's so many more task force now specializing in fighting human trafficking. So I don't want readers who haven't read this to think this is a really grim, sad book, because I don't think it is. I think it's more about survival and reclaiming your life and
Healing.
and hot sex and all that sort of but I had to research all of that because things have changed so much. And then I was elbow deep. I'm always so afraid that I'll insult someone in the military, which would never, ever be my intent. But since I haven't served and my husband didn't serve, it's hard to know, some of the nitty gritty. So there was actually a wonderfully nice young man who went to school with I have 3 sons, went to school with my sons, and he actually had that job. So he tapped me on the shoulder and said, I can give you all this info. So that was a huge help. So many times I would message him and say, am I wording this correctly? Just even like a title or, I would have said a former Army Ranger. And And he's like, no, you're never not an Army Ranger. So, you know.
Oh, I love that too.
Yeah.
I love that in the book.
Yeah, that was great.
So, Lori, I'm from Colorado. I live in Colorado Springs. So I kind of loved the Colorado thing, but I'm wondering what made you want to set that in Colorado?
I had no intentions of setting that in Colorado. My publisher really wanted it set in Colorado because they love the mountains. And I said, couldn't I make it Smoky Mountains? Because I've been to the Smoky Mountains a lot of times, but there's not really as much human trafficking in the Smoky Mountains as there are in Colorado because of the way the highway system is set up and the way you cross through states. So they really wanted it set in Colorado. The only times I've ever been in Colorado was for a convention, and I never left the hotel. So that's been a lot of research also, trying to make sure that I didn't butcher anything there. Did I insult Colorado?
No, you did a good job. And really, if you live in Colorado, I mean, I-25 and I-70 are our main things that everybody talks about. So is the ghost town a real place, the Colville?
It is. That's not the name of it, but that was a real place, yes. So I looked that up. I forget the real name on it now, but I always change the names of everything. So if I mess up a detail, no one can call me on it, you know?
Oh, that's
I do that too.
Abbie's nodding, she knows, yeah. You put a stop sign in the wrong place, or, you know, have the wrong intersection, and someone will remind you. So.
Yes.
You know, it wouldn't be a live stream if we didn't mess something up. So I wanted to tell everybody that if you comment and ask questions or whatever, you're automatically entered to win a $10 Amazon gift card. I think we're doing four. So four winners this time. So I want to get that out there. And I see that Wendy has asked, is there a connection between Dare from When You Dare and Parrish? I'm wondering if he is Dare's stepbrother.
Well, you know, that would have been a great twist, but no, they're not. I did a really, really long connecting series once where it was one series led into another series, led into another series, and it was exhausting. So now, knowing me, knowing that I don't want to have to reread my own books to make sure I'm keeping things straight, I don't know that I would ever do that again. So now I just start from scratch and begin anew. But that's a really good question because I have done that before. So that's probably why she thought that.
And
We've got a question. Oh, go ahead, Sharon.
No, go ahead, Abbie.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I was just saying Karen's question is, what inspired you to write and what are your hobbies?
What are my hobbies? Inspired me to write. I was never even a reader. So, you know, I'm 60. Are we 62? I think we're 62 now. And I'm not a numbers person at all. I always feel like I should say 72, and then people think, boy, she looks good for 72.
I think you look dang good for 60.
You look like 20 years younger.
I published back in 98. So it's been a really long time ago that I first published. And I had never even really been a reader. And I think I had pneumonia or something. I don't know. I was stuck in the bed, which is, I'm a very antsy, have to be doing things person. So I wasn't very good at bed rest. And my sister brought me over a big paper bag full of romance novels. And I flipped through the first one to the sex scene and read that, and then got so intrigued by what was going on, I ended up having to go back to the beginning and read the whole book. And I was just, by the time I got out of the bed, I had read every book she brought, and I was completely hooked. You know, it seems like in school, every book that you're required to read is depressing. And I just, you know, there's life, you know, and I didn't want to add my entertainment as depressing. So romance novels were the total opposite of depressing. And I just really got into it. And then it took me a long time. I wrote 10 books before I sold the first one. And this was old days, you know, again, we didn't even have computers. You had to print the whole thing out, snail mail it out, literally wait a year to get a postcard back to be told they weren't interested. So it took me well over 5 years before I finally sold.
Wow.
That's a lucky illness, though.
Yeah. They may have never discovered books otherwise.
Right.
Hobbies, we have a summer house on a lake that's within driving distance. So we go there quite often. I love to be out on the water. I used to always water ski, but I broke my elbow one year, and then the beginning of 20, New Year's Day, I broke my wrist and shoulder. So I don't know that I'll do any more water. And so we love to just take walks in the woods and go to nature type stuff. And, you know, my husband was doing this. I have no idea what that means. Oh, RV. We have an
Oh, an RV.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
it
awesome.
was a really big steering wheel he was driving behind me. So, yeah, we love to go out in our RV quite often too.
Oh, me too. I absolutely love it. See, now you have to go to Colorado. You have to drive your RV.
I know.
We have cats too, so I don't know if the cats would want to be in the RV that long.
No, that'd be a journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a question from somebody, and I'm sorry, it just says Facebook user. It says, when you do a series, do you have all 3 book ideas in mind at the beginning, or do you write one and the other 2 come to you?
So I'm very much a pantser, you know, meaning I don't know what I'm going to write till I sit down and start writing. With Cade's book, I knew there would be a brother and sister, but I didn't know if they would be the other books, and I didn't know how big of a role they would play. And I sort of just give my muse free rein once I start writing, and it just does whatever it wants to do. And in the first book, Reyes very much tried to take over the book, so I had to keep smacking him and tell him, "Wait your turn."
Yeah.
So you know, I don't plan too far in advance. Now you have to fudge it a little bit because editors and publishers are picky and they want to have some idea of what you're going to do. So I have to kind of come up with a, you know, that'll probably be this and it maybe be that, and most times it's not, but it's close enough to appease them, you know. So.
And
how much do you write a day? Do you like write for a word count or certain length of time every day, or?
So I average about 220 words per page, and I try to write about 10, 12, sometimes more pages a day. Sometimes I'm not successful. Many times I'll come out and complain to my husband, I only got 5 pages today. And he'll always say, I was hoping for 100. For some reason. Then I'll come out and I'll make him give me a high five because I managed to get 20 written, you know, so it usually takes me about 3 months to write a big book, you know, start to finish. And I'm a fairly polished writer, so I polish as I go along. So when I'm done, I'm done.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Nice. And
Cool.
Stephanie asked, will there be any more Buckhorn books?
Yeah. Normally the benefit book that will be out in June would be a Buckhorn book because I really expanded on that entire family. But I sort of ran out of characters that were part of the original family. There's a couple of kids that need to grow up a little bit more now. So my thought is to go back and write them at some point. But I want to give them a chance. If, you know, if I'm progressing the way the ages of the original 4 brothers are, you know, they might be buried in the ground before these kids are old enough. And I don't know if I want to do that. So I'm kind of just, again, I'm a pantser, so I'll wait and see if a story pops into my head. I keep thinking about going back and writing the mother's story. So for anyone that doesn't know, the first 4 brothers, 2 brothers were blood related. The third one was half brother, and the 4th one was a half brother. So the mother was married, her husband died. She married another man, divorced him, married another man, and is happily married with him. So you had these 4 alpha guys that we started out with. And I kind of hate to let any of them go just to continue the series, you know. But I don't want them 98 years old either. So
I wonder if you could do like soap opera aging, where all of a sudden, like,
yeah.
one day they're like 25.
Grandpa's only 20 years older. Yeah.
Well, Rory, tell us a little bit about your benefit book and how that works, and you know what you're doing this year, and tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, sure. So I'm a huge lover of animals. We had 4 cats until recently, and our oldest passed away of old age, all rescues. And I would always donate to our local animal shelters. You would do what you could, but I'm not the type of person that could go up and walk the dogs and pet the cats very often because you wouldn't be able to walk in my house. I'd have so many animals. So I would donate money instead. You know, I think people do what they can do. And I kept trying to think of a better way that I could help. And so I decided to just write a book and got my publishers to go along to donate the advance and all royalties for the life of the book. So the contract is written in a way that everything goes to the animal shelter. I never see it at all. So we did that. I've done quite a few now with the animal shelter. Normally those would be Buckhorn books, but this year it'll be Colt, who is a young man that appeared in Don't Tempt Me and Worth the Wait. a lot of readers wanted his book. So I thought, well, I always try to pick characters that I think readers will really like, so that more royalties, so the shelter will get more money. So I do one of those a year, and I intend to do them until I can't write anymore or my publisher refuses to do it. But
and when is that out?
Do it, please.
When is that out?
It's out June 1st.
June 1st. Okay, and you have something on June 22nd too, right?
June 22nd is the Summer of No Attachments. That'll be a trade book. Who was it that said a big book? I think it was Jennie. Said a big book, a little book. So it'll be a big book. It'll be the big trade book.
And someone asked, there's actually two questions that are similar. What is your favorite book that you've written and why? And someone else asked, what's your favorite series? And I'm curious, is the book and the series the same?
Well, probably. So one of my favorite books is When You Dare, and that probably has something to do with the incredibly gorgeous cover they gave me. Chest hair. I mean, that was the first chest hair book I'd had. And then I was terrible in every book after that. I wanted chest hair, by God.
Chest hair done well can be very sexy.
Very much so, yeah. And so anybody that hasn't seen it, go look it up. It's a gorgeous cover. And so that was one of my favorite books, because that was one where I just sort of turned myself loose and let him kill when he needed to kill and maim when he needed to maim, and have as much sex as he wanted to have, sort of thing. And that's part of my Men of Honor series, which is one of my favorite series. This was where I was talking about. I wrote the Men of Honor series, and that sort of trickled into the Love Undercover series, which sort of trickled into the Ultimate Fighter series, which trickled into the Body Armor series. And by the time I got done, I was so done with those people. I just wanted them all to go away. So I didn't want to do that to myself ever again.
Have you done any kind of self-defense, or because your action scenes are so authentic?
Oh, thank you.
And so well choreographed, I kind of feel like you must have taken some sort of.
No, I haven't, but we're big UFC fans. And so if you listen to a lot of UFC podcasts and you listen to the fighters being interviewed and you watch the fights and you hear what they're saying about things, plus my husband and all three of my sons were wrestlers. So I can usually ask them, if you're going to do this, how would you do it? And they don't touch me because Momo's not going to be tossed around, but they'll show me on each other, what should be done. So how it should be. So that it helps a little bit.
What do you like reading for pleasure?
Right now I'm reading T.J. Logan. Oh, these amazing alpha heroes, very, very strong military heroes. The one, Deadly Deception is one I finished prior to this one. And the heroine was also extremely kick-ass. Still very feminine, but also extremely, extremely capable. And I loved that book so much that I bought two more, and I'm working on the second one now that I just started. And that's contemporary romance. Overall, though, my true love is reading historical romance. So I've been glomming Vivian LeRae. Oh, she's amazing. I love, love, love her books. So if anybody likes historical romance, Vivian LeRae and Elizabeth Hoyt, Kerrigan Byrne, they're just amazing authors. And of course, I love my older, Julie Garwood and Joanna Lindsay and Amanda Quick. Those are all still some of my favorites too. I revisit them probably once a year.
So did you watch Bridgerton?
I haven't yet. I fully intend to, because I know I'm going to love it. But I work all day long. Like I'm up by 4 a.m, and I'm usually not done working until my amazing husband says dinner's ready. And by time he cooks dinner every day. And by time I'm done in the evening, I sort of, crash. And for some reason, I want a movie because a movie zones me out. But I fully intend to, like when we're on vacation or something, or when I finish this book, to start it so I can just watch the whole thing, as much as it's already been out. So. And
would you ever write a historical novel?
Oh, it would be so bad. It would be so bad. These people that get particular about history, honest to God, if I was reading a book and the characters were engaging and a Cadillac drove through the middle of a joust, I wouldn't blink an eye. if I'm enjoying the book. It would never jump out at me. And so people will write historical authors and say they didn't have stopwatches at that time, or timepieces.
Right.
I would never know, because I'm just focused on the characters and the love story and the ambiance of the historical part of it. So no, I would be terrible at writing historical romance. Absolutely terrible.
Is it the characters that always speak to you instead of the subject matter of a story? Is it the characters that come out for you?
You're talking about in reading or in writing?
In writing.
Yeah, so usually what will happen is a character will pop in my head, and there'll be a short scene involved, and that's as much as I know about the character. Then that'll get me interested, and then I start trying to think, well, why were they in that situation, and what happened there? And you get enough of an idea. Then I have to ask online for readers to give me a name, because after 100 and some books, I'm out of names.
Oh, wow.
Who's got a name for a kick-ass alpha guy, or a kid, or the heroine? You run out of names, and I don't want to use family names, and our family is large, and so.
So do you keep a series Bible for each series? Like, do you keep careful track of everything that goes on in all your books?
I keep careful track. It's not a Bible. I'm an extremely organized person, but it's my own method of organization. So I usually start out with just what I call a character sheet. When I have someone, I write them down. When I give them an eye color, I write it down. When I give them hair color or height or whatever car they're driving. If anything's going to happen in their house, I'll look up actual house plans and put a picture of that on my sheet for me. And then I just add the characters as I go along so I can keep track. Then when you do something like the Buckhorn books where everybody's aging, it gets tricky, because you got to go through every single sheet and update the ages on people. So if I mess that up, I hope readers don't write me, tell me someone's the wrong age.
And so Rita just asked, if they ever made one of your books into a movie, which one would you pick?
I'd be thrilled for any of them. But if it was up to me, probably the Love Undercover series, because that was so much fun for me. If anyone doesn't know that, it was Run the Risk, where both people were sort of hiding. He was undercover, she was pretending to be someone else, and of course they still managed to have hot sex and fall in love. And it was the scene that happened in that book in a police station where she shows up as who she really is. That's one of my favorite scenes I've ever written. So that was super, super fun for me. She had always dressed down and not looked as attractive. He saw through it and thought she was attractive. But then when she showed up looking amazing, I think his eyeballs about fell out. That was one of my favorites. So that was Run the Risk, Bear It All, Getting Rowdy, and Dash of Peril. Okay. I don't title my books. I'm terrible. Do you guys title your books?
No, publisher does it.
Same here. Abbie's nodding that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I am so bad. Eons ago, I had a character named Eli, and the publisher said, come up with a title. Well, there was a song called Eli's Coming, Hide Your Heart, Girl. So I titled it Eli's Coming, and they called me up laughing.
Oh my gosh.
This will not do. And I was just like trying to come up with a title so I could get it out of there. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I was so embarrassed. I don't even attempt it.
That's funny.
Oh,
Gets right to the point, doesn't it?
Okay, it's degraded since I just said that. But
Lori, over the years, how many publishers have you worked for?
Let's see. I started with Harlequin in category, writing category romance. And then I wrote for some novellas for Berkeley Romance. And I think it's Penguin Putnam now. I don't know. They all change names. And I
know.
And then I was with Kensington for a really long time. Absolutely loved Kensington. Kate Duffy was my editor there. She's absolutely amazing, amazing editor. And then I did some single title for Berkeley. And then I went back to Harlequin with single title.
Okay.
So, and I did, I think, one novella for St. Martin's, or two novellas for St. Martin's.
Wow, that is so cool.
So
And my husband's doing this. I don't think I've done 4, so I don't know what he's telling me.
So you've been published since, would you say 1998?
90. Did I say 98 before? It was 96. My husband
96.
corrected me too.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how have your covers evolved over time?
Well, so when you start out, you don't have much cover approval at all, and you can get some real stinky covers, or at least I thought some of them were really, really bad. So one of the first big contracts I signed, you always want more money. I always want more money, but one thing that I really, really wanted was cover approval, so that I could say this isn't the hero. This is a ridiculous looking cover. I really wanted to be able to weigh in on that. And so I got that. So now the way my covers work is they'll send me concept art, and they'll say, this is, someone's going to be leaning this way and it'll be like that, but they're going to be wearing different clothes. And, obviously it'll be a model instead of who's ever in the stock art. And like for Getting Rowdy, it started out, he was leaning on a brick wall. And when it was done, he was leaning on a pool table. So, it wasn't, I think the concept art they sent me was the guy from True Blood, the really tall blonde.
Oh, Alexander Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Abbie knows.
Like I knew him right off.
Right, yeah. But that wasn't Rowdy. So that was just the art. They're saying he's going to be standing like this, and it'll be on a pool table. And they went through the whole thing, and so they adapted it there. So they'll send me the concept, and then they'll send me the artwork, and then they'll send me the finished thing. And usually I'm going, yes, yes, yes. But every so often I'm like, oh, I guess if we have to, Right. So far, Harlequin's been pretty good. I used to have the big, hunky guys on the cover, but they're sort of going this direction now. It's hard to hold that on the camera.
I know.
So I actually like it better, because then I don't have to say he needs chest hair. He's wearing a shirt. And and you're not really seeing the face. So as long as they get the hair color right and it's a muscular guy, then it's so hard to match what I think the person looks like to a model that they can find.
I love that cover. I think the colors with the purples and the blue.
Yeah,
it's so striking. I really love it.
If you go into a bookstore, you'll see those colors all the way across the shelves. It must be like the in thing right now, I guess.
Wow.
The popular.
Yeah.
So Zena wants to know if have you ever had a cover pulled because something was too bloody or violent or suggestive?
Had a cover pulled?
Because it was too bloody or violent or suggestive.
I don't know who would pull it. I mean, I'm not really sure.
Like someone said, yeah, no, we can't put this out there, or.
Well, so I know Walmart doesn't want guns shown or something like that. I forget. They don't want, I would have them all doing this, ready to shoot someone, but I think Walmart frowns on that, or they did. So there were a few times where I loved a cover like that, and they would say, well, we need to not have a gun in it.
Right.
But I don't think any have ever been pulled. I think Harlequin's pretty good about knowing what's allowed and what isn't, and what will pass muster. And, they have their whole buyer section that deals with all the different locations that books will go. And so they know in advance what'll work and what won't. And then they have their big powwows and figure it all out.
That's good. You have someone who's looking after you.
Mm-hmm.
Sherry asks, what is the best part of writing romance novels?
Well, obviously the pay is good. I can't say that I don't like being paid well. But overall, I think the contact with the readers, it's, I was always very much an introvert. I'm not anymore. After my first kid, that sort of blows that out of the water. So as my kids were growing up, I was writing more. And so it was sort of a natural progression to stop being so shy and backward to speaking up for yourself and what you liked in books. Excuse me. And then the wonderful invention of the computer came around, and you get to see readers far, far more. None of you are old enough to know this, but like literally I was involved in the PTA when we got a computer for the school. And then a few years later when we got a computer for each grade level. And then, years later, helping to run the carnival so that we could get computers for every kid in the school, So I've sort of watched this whole.
It hasn't been that long.
To where I am now, So it's great to be able to get up in the morning. I'm a zombie for a few hours. I get up and just drink my coffee and check in and chit chat with readers online, and that's my version of being social, I think.
That's because you're up at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's what
I know. And why do I get up so blasted early? It's so ridiculous. I don't know why. It's like I snap awake and I cannot go back to sleep. So, so dumb.
Well, Stephanie would love to know, who is your favorite author of all time?
That would probably be Julie Garwood, because I've reread every Julie Garwood book there is multiple times. You know, Honor Splendor is one of my all-time favorite books. At least once a year I read that. The Bride, Lion's Lady, you know, they're friends. They're friends that I like to revisit once a year. So there are many authors that I have massive respect for and love their books, but it would be Julie Garwood. And I haven't followed her into contemporary. I probably should, but to me, she's always going to be a historical author.
Yeah. So I'm going to kick myself if I don't ask you this question, because I really want to know. So when reading No Holding Back, I felt like Cade and Star had this kind of push-pull, and, you know, lots of reasons why things might not work out between them. And I just wonder, do you ever have a couple that fights you, that doesn't want to be together, that kind of you feel like you're pulling them together, and feel like there's, you know, a little, you know, discord?
No. I guess I'm fortunate. Sometimes they're wanting to do things before I think they should, you know.
So the opposite.
Yeah, sometimes I'm trying to say, let's hold up. Let's get one more scene in here before we have a bedroom scene. But gently, like I say, generally, I just turn them loose, and I just follow along and try to get it on paper as they're doing what they're doing. And
so maybe that was just me. I was like, come on, you guys, get together.
Yeah. Well, she had so many issues and was so independent, and want to trust him. And of course, he couldn't trust her because they had so many family secrets. And you don't just meet a girl or a woman. I keep getting corrected on that. You guys, I'm old. My editor is constantly marking not a girl, a woman. I'm like, I'm sorry. You know, you don't just meet a woman and say, hey, guess what? My family is a bunch of vigilantes that run around and catch the scumbag on the street. So he had solid reasons for having to tiptoe. And I think she had solid reasons for not wanting to trust. So they didn't find. I'm trying to remember, after 100 books, there's probably been one somewhere, but I don't know who it would be.
Well, and I really thought it was neat because Star was so independent, and I don't think she ever would have sought Cade out, but Cade just shows up and he's going to take care of her. You know, like that's it. He's just going to take care of her.
And I'm thinking by the end of that book, she would have been dead if it hadn't been for Cade.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I love the use of her name, Star and Sterling, when you went back and forth on that. That was really lovely.
A little confusing, maybe. I don't know. I hope it wasn't too confusing.
No, because it showed the intimacy between them when she would finally allow him to use the shorter name. I just thought it was really lovely.
Awesome. Thank you. I worry about those little things sometimes. Is this going to confuse readers, you know? And then at one point I realized that I was writing Colt and Cade and Crosby. And I said, where did all these C names come from? So I thought I got to mix it up a little bit. Right now in the third book that I'm writing, there's a Caden, and I need to change it because there's too many C's. So I've got to think up a new name.
How long does it take you to write a book, Lori, normally?
You know, if it's a novella, you know, a few weeks to a month. If it's a big book like, here's the thing. If it's like No Holding Back, I finish it more quickly than I do my trade books, like A Summer of No Attachments. I don't know why I can't kill anybody in A Summer of No Attachments, so nobody's beating anybody up. You know, that's my real love of writing. But the trade books have a different feel to them. You know, they're more emotional. Mm-hmm. Not that I think the other ones are lacking emotion, but that's where the real focus is more on emotion. And if a guy sees something that isn't right, he has to be very mature and calm and beta about it. And I like it much better when he can just go kick some butt if he needs to. So the trade books probably take me 3.5 months. Okay. No Holding Back and books like that, 2.5.
Are you ever working on 2 books at a time, or?
Not actively writing 2 books at a time, but of course I just finished going over line edits for Stronger Than You Know, the second book in the series. while I was writing the third book and while we were promoting the first book. So yeah, you end up with more than one book on your brain, that you just can't get around that. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new books out this year. So it gets really, really overwhelming at times, trying to keep up with the line edits and then copy edits and then promotion and book releases, and it can get a little dicey.
Louise asked, what was the first book that you ever wrote? Not the first book that was published, the first book you ever wrote.
Who was asking that? I couldn't. Everybody kind of froze at one time.
Louise Bateman.
Okay. So I see Abbie's mouth moving, but I'm not hearing anything. So that's just me.
I'm sorry.
There you are. Now you're back.
Okay. So Louise Bateman asked, what was the first book that you ever wrote? Not published, but wrote.
Well, it never got published, so
Right.
I don't really remember a whole lot about it.
Okay.
It was written longhand because I didn't even have a typewriter when I started.
Wow.
And then my dad remarried, and my stepmother offered to. They came over one time when I was very much a closet writer, and they came over one time while I was sitting on the couch writing, and I tried to stuff the papers underneath the couch real quick, and she very, very nicely offered to type it up for me. Well, you talk about having to take a leap because nobody had seen any of my writing. It was just for me. So I have to give a lot of credit to Ellie Davis for if she hadn't done that and made it seem more possible, I don't know that I ever would have kept up with it. But
Wow.
but I don't really remember what that book was. I'm sure it was a damsel in distress and an alpha guy and someone kicking someone's butt. That's where I gravitate.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm super excited about Reyes and Kennedy's story. I'm so intrigued by her.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to find out more about her.
I know the mystery woman in this book and how she's going to fit in with the family. Like one of the things I loved was how Star was invited into the family.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such an unusual thing. So now you have this other person, and I'm just wondering what's going to happen with that. So
And
any clues you can drop for us, or?
Kennedy is very, very different from Sterling. So she has no interest in, she wants to stay in shape. She wants to be able to defend herself if necessary. That's how they met. For anybody who hasn't read it, Reyes has a gym and she was in the gym. But she's not a fighter, and she would have no idea how to go about physically defending herself the way Sterling can. So who's got a doggy barking? I hear the doggy.
Probably not me.
Might be me.
Not me.
Actually, that's right.
Just like
I
here,
have headphones on. I'm surprised you can hear that.
excuse me. So she's very, very different though. So
And
obviously
an animal lover. She's an animal lover.
she's an animal lover. I don't know that, that people ask me, do I ever feel like I have certain criteria for characters? So number one, they have to respect and care for children, elderly. I would not be able to write a character who didn't care if someone needed them and they would just turn a blind eye. I would not be able to do that. Could never, ever, ever write someone who really didn't like animals, because that would, to me, they wouldn't be a real good person. How do you not like animals? I don't know.
Well, I think that's the thing about the Mackenzie, the family, this vigilante family, that really struck me is that Parrish, the father, has this, you take care of people. When the cat comes home, they find a stray cat, hopefully not giving away too much. But when the cat is brought into his house, he says, well, of course you would bring it here. It needed help. And that's kind of like their family dynamic. And I absolutely love that. I don't know. It just feels so heartwarming to think of people who care that much.
All of the benefit books I do have animals play a larger role. And I think Jennie was the one that said that a lot of animals in hers. To me, it really, really develops a character to know where their heart is and about their compassion. So I love including animals. I think every one of my trade books also has animals in them.
Well, I love the fact that Star is the one that first saw Kennedy and really recognized that there was something
Something's
It
going
wasn't-
on with her, yeah.
Yeah, and as attracted as Reyes was to her, it was Star that noticed her. I really liked that little aspect of it.
Well, good. Yeah, thank you.
That
Yeah,
was
well,
great.
that was one woman seeing something in another woman that, the guys might not have seen. So the guys defend women, they rescue them, but they're not counselors, they're not psychologists. So they're not exactly trained to deal with any sort of emotional trauma. It just has to be their goodwill and their good nature and their caring that brings them through, because they've been trained with every kind of weapon there is, and they know how to defend themselves, and they know every kind of surveillance there is, but they're not trained for the emotional trauma, because they don't necessarily deal with that part. Of course, Parrish has the task force and the stuff that he does to help them out, but so it was, I liked that Sterling. So it is good, confusing that she saw it. She could tell right away something was going on.
Well, Catherine would love to know, how did you get into writing the trade books, the trade size paper?
Okay, so that was very much a nudge from my publishers. So I don't know how long all of you have been published, but used to be, we would go up to the mall and there were 4 bookstores within the mall. And of course, there's not anymore. Now we have to drive, from our house 40 minutes to find a bookstore.
Same here.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're just not around like they used to be. And so many of the shelf space and Walmarts and those Target and Meijer, it's shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And so the publishers are always looking for what the next hot thing is. And they were seeing a ton of success in trade books. So I kind of went reluctantly, kicking a little bit, because it's not a completely natural fit for me. I love it. Once I get into the story, I love writing it, but the stories don't bloom on me the way they do for the mass market books. So, and the one that will come out in June, I cried through that entire stupid book. It's not a stupid book. I apologize. I cried. It's like I would come out here and be all red-eyed. My husband would say, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "It's a damn book." And this character had this happen, and that character had that happen. And it's not a super, super sad book. It just had those elements that, again, I couldn't have anybody beat anybody up. So that's what happens.
Wow. Sabrina asked, do you have a favorite character that you still think of?
I have several that I still think of. When Diana was reading my bio, which you didn't need to read that whole long bio. I'm sorry. I could have sent you a very condensed version. There was a character that I wrote that was in Servant the Awakening, Servant the Acceptance. I forget which one won the award. It was more paranormal. It's the only paranormal books I've really written. Well, I wrote a short paranormal to go. My son's a writer, J.Z. Foster, and I wrote a short paranormal story to go in one of his anthologies. But otherwise, on my own, I wrote those as L.L. Foster. And Gabby and Luther both are still in my head, and I still want to write more for them. Very, very much so. It's like I have whole books in my head for Gabby and Luther, but it's not really my bread and butter right now. So
is it the characters whose voices you hear the most clearly that keep calling you back?
Well, they just call at me a lot. When I'm in the middle of writing Cade's book or Reyes's book, they're talking to me more. But anytime you go between a book, Gabby and Luther are talking to me. They just have so many stories they want to tell yet. And one of these days I'll get back to them, but I don't know when that'll be.
Jacqueline has a question. What is the difference between trade and mass market? And I think a lot of our readers, have that question.
The difference?
The different size.
Well,
It's size.
Yeah, I should have brought that out here. So a trade book is a bigger book. Yeah, so you can see Jenny's books there. Is it Jenny or Jeannie? How do you pronounce it?
Jenny.
Jenny? Okay, good. I was saying it right.
You're saying it right. Trying to figure out how to.
Yeah, that's so hard.
Yeah, they're just size.
The trade book obviously is the bigger book, and then the mass market is a smaller book. But they're also marketed very, very differently. And many, many, many of the trade books are more emotional, more about the small town, a cast of characters, that sort of thing. And one thing with my trade books, there's always 2 storylines going on. So one will be the dominant storyline and the other will be the secondary storyline. which I don't generally do that. I have a couple of times, but I don't generally do that in my mass markets.
So for Reyes, I found that he was kind of a secondary storyline in this book, No Holding Back. But I really found that he was a very dominant personality. So are you done with him after one book? Because I really, I feel like that could be someone you go back to again and again.
Well, he'll be in the third book also. As you get to the third book, everybody's in it still. Yeah. So Art and Parrish and Madison and Crosby. I don't know if you guys even met Crosby in No Holding Back, but Crosby's there.
I don't remember.
Crosby is a detective that sort of gets on to what they're doing.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't really understand everything, just knows that every time bad things happen, the McKenzie family is somewhere around it. And very, very suspicious.
Right.
Madison lays eyes on him and just wants him. And of course, he's trying to keep her at arm's length, trying to sort out what it is her father and two brothers are up to. And so all kind of sparks. That's the one I'm writing right now.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, but Reyes and Kennedy will be in, and that's the second book is theirs, and then they'll make appearances in the third book. And, with that
someone here has asked, and I think the question was directed towards all of us, but particularly to you. Do you have any advice for aspiring authors?
That's a tough one for me because, again, I'm a dinosaur. So everything that I learned how to do, I'm not sure applies anymore. I've been talking with TJ Logan just because I admire her books so much. And I try to reach out to authors when I love their work. And so she and I have been chit-chatting. She's a wonderful person. And I know she's indie published. So the whole process for an indie published author is vastly different for a traditionally published, which I'm still traditionally published. So, and same thing with my son. My son is indie published. And the things that he'll talk about are things that I didn't even know, that indie authors do. So traditionally published, I think the process is very, very different. So you're able to, of course, email in a submission instead of printing it out and sending 3 copies like we had to do back in the Stone Age. And, the only relevant advice I could still give to a new author, and I always hesitate to give advice because every author is different. What works for me may not work for anyone else, but I'm a strong believer that it's your book and it's not the committee's book. So if you're in a critique group, I don't think it's a good idea to write a chapter, share it with the committee, and then write the next chapter and share it with the committee. I think it really, really, really needs to be your book. And
that is great advice. And because I talked to a lot of writers who do that, and what ends up happening is you have your voice killed, because someone else's opinion is then taking over, and you get, hypersensitive to, well, is this right? Is that right? So yeah, that's a great
guessing yourself, and that, if it throws you off on the first chapter, you're thrown off for the rest of the book.
Right, exactly.
In my opinion, and it just dilutes your voice. And there are so many authors now, and there are so many books that your voice is the only unique. There is no story that hasn't yet been told. And so your voice is the only really unique thing you have. And people are offended by different things. Everybody comes at life through their own perspectives and their own experiences and, their own priorities. And so, you say one thing that someone might think is offensive. The editor that may buy that book may not. Or you might say something that someone thinks is too strong or too weak, but that might be totally opposite of what an editor would have said had she seen it first. And so the only person that, number one, you matter, what it is you think. Number two, the editor matters. And once it ever gets published, of course, readers. But, all the critique groups and stuff, to me, I know it's done a lot, but I think it's a huge risk.
Yeah, I think if you're going to do a critique group, you have to go in already with confidence in your own story.
And in your own voice. So that
yes, exactly. And I think that's when a critique group can be good for you. But if you're going in with zero confidence in your voice and in your own story, exactly what you say is going to happen.
Yeah, I have a friend, we had lunch the other day, Jessica Lemon, who's an author. and she and Jules Bennett, another author, love to get together and plot. Now, I'm extremely territorial, so whatever plot I come up with, I don't care what anyone else thinks. But I love that the two of them can get together and they bounce ideas around and they come up with, plots. They take the best parts of whatever each one comes up with. That's why I say it's very much what works for somebody. I'm I don't want to hear what anybody has to say. And, I'm all done. And then if I have to let an editor tell me to change something, I will. But, only if I really, really have to. So that's completely different. I had another friend who used to keep a big storyboard, and she would write different scenes and plot the whole thing out. And it seemed like so much work that I would have been done. By the time I plotted that all out, I would have been done with the book, and I wouldn't have wanted to have written it.
Yeah, I'm a pantser like you are, and I like that stuff. If I know what's going to happen in the book, I don't want to write it. I already know.
Yeah, you're not motivated to get to that actual scene.
Yeah.
To me, I'm not.
Yeah.
Lori, I'm fascinated by the fact that you said that your son writes, and I have 2 sons, and I know that my men folk sometimes get a little tired of me talking about writing all the time and trying to get them to like, what should I do here? And I'm always asking them for plot advice. But I'm just wondering, tell us a little bit about like having another writer in your family and how fun that is.
It is so amazing. So this is my middle son. I have 3 sons. This is my middle son who graduated with a criminal justice degree and then decided to go to South Korea to teach for a while first. It was just like out of the blue. We're like, you're going to South Korea. So he went over there. He taught for, I think maybe he was there 5 years, ended up opening his own school there teaching, and met his wife, my amazingly awesome daughter-in-law, Hannah Lee. And when they had a baby, they moved back home. But while he was there, in between teaching, he had started to write a little bit. And he would tell me a little bit about it, but not a whole lot, because generally when you speak, when someone's in South Korea, you're talking more about life and love and missing people. So when he got home, one of the first books he got was Witch Hunter, and I read it and I'm like, holy crap, he's really good.
Wow.
You're really amazed. My son, it was the funniest monster type paranormal thing. I laughed so much, and it's this very anti-hero, normal, average guy who's scared to death but steps up and does what has to be done each time. And I just loved Richard. Now he's written, I don't know, 3 or 4 that I haven't had a chance to read yet. But yeah, it's super, super fun. So when he comes over, we talk about Amazon and BookBub, and he shows me how he checks his sales, and I tell him where I am on BookScan, and we're able to talk books a little bit. He comes to my event. So
what's his name, so everybody can make sure they run out and buy his book?
J.Z. Foster.
J.Z. Foster.
Right.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you so much.
Not J-A-Y. It's J period Z.
Z.
His name's Jake, but he's going by initials. Yeah.
Okay.
Z. Foster. Yeah, it's super fun. I keep telling the oldest and the youngest, you guys need to start writing so we can make this a family thing. Because my husband, he doesn't write, but he's very, very involved in enabling me to write. So when there's promo stuff that has to be dealt with, he takes care of that for me. He does all the mailing when I have to mail stuff out. He keeps the house picked up and the food made.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, so often if I've had a rough day, I've been writing all day. Like the other day, he called and he said, so I picked up some sandwiches and I'm going to go over to Brookville Lake and eat them as the sun sets. You interested, or do I have to go alone? No, I'll go with you. So he drags me off the computer sometimes when he knows I'm getting too frazzled trying to finish something.
Oh, that is awesome.
That is wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by today. Can you believe we're already out of
Oh my
time?
gosh,
I know. It always goes so fast. Yeah.
Well, I need all of you to stay in touch because this was really fun. You guys are fascinating.
Oh my God, we had so much fun. Hopefully you can come back another time. We'll do another book because this was
anytime. Just let me know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lori. Bye.
Bye, Lori.
Okay. All right, guys. So we're doing our normal
Questions.
questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're doing our normal.
Normal
What are we
questions.
doing? That's
Okay,
normal?
so these are questions that we ask you all, and we'll put them in a poll because I'm learning how to do polls on Facebook now because Diana's had to do them for me, which is really embarrassing. Anyway, and they tie into the next book we're going to read. So the question for this week is you have to decide which one of the
Wait, are we
authors.
supposed to show our thing? Oh no, wait. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Do we?
I was jumping the
you go
gun.
first.
Okay.
I think
Do the questions first, right?
Yeah. Do the questions, and then we'll announce the author.
Okay. So you have to match the author, one of the four of us, with the type of our favorite cookie. So which one of us likes no-bake cookies? Which one prefers peanut butter? Which one prefers chocolate chip? And which one prefers butterscotch oatmeal? So 4 cookies for authors. You just have to match us up.
And which one had no idea what a no-bake cookie is?
Exactly. That should be a question.
Like the bonus
That
question.
really should be a question.
And we
bonus round is which author had no idea what a no-bake cookie is.
okay, we'll do that for the bonus round. Okay. And
So our book for next month is an author you all already love, and we do too. Abbie Roads, Capturing Fate. Now the book has something to do with cookies. We don't know yet, but we will figure it out. So I'm so excited to read this, Abbie, and I love this cover.
I love the cover. I've been waiting for this book for a while, so I'm very excited to read it.
Oh, thank
Super
you.
excited, and we'll drop a link for that book in the group, you guys. And it was awesome seeing you today. Thanks for stopping by. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.